Welcome to Shining Light Art. Today I'm going to be taking this simple box and turning it into an apartment building. First off, the wiring. I bought these battery packs and LED lights so I could start wiring these myself because I used to be buying the string lights from the dollar store and they were just way overkill. So I figured, why not add another skill in the arsenal of crafting and figure out how to wire them myself, which is pretty easy considering the fact that they're all color-coded. Next, I took corkboard to create that ground texture. I figured once it was all painted, it would look like concrete, and that's what I was going for here. But it also was really convenient in hiding the battery pack, because it's not something you want staring at you in the middle of the build, so that's what I did. I had to cut out the square so many times that there were just so many sitting around, but once it fit properly and I liked the way it looked, I was able to glue it all out. You'll notice I did carve out some of the area of the corkboard just so that the battery pack would fit better. Next, with my Dremel, I drilled a hole for the LED to loop back into the battery pack. This way the LED light could sit behind the faux wall and show the building front. Using some foam core, I cut out a brick wall. It's such an easy way to build a brick wall texture, so it's my go-to for most things. And then I just use a heat gun, well, not really a heat gun, I have a blow dryer for this one, but it just opens those spaces up a little bit more with the heat. And then I just cover everything in a layer of orange paint. I would like to say it took me such a short time to finish this wall, but it actually would have been the most painstaking process ever because it's so small, every detail is important, and therefore I have to be a perfectionist and make sure it looks good. So once it was all painted orange, I went over with a wall filler. So using that wall filler adds that extra layer of like mortar, brick and mortar kind of look. I just really like how it turns out, but I end up going over the bricks over and over and over again because it does change the look, and all this paint I used kind of was for naught. Although I still wouldn't take out any of the steps as far as sealing the foam core. So I don't really know the story behind my build per se. The apartment, I don't know who lives there. All I know is that they get newspapers, but I would like to know what you think down in the comments. Who do you think lives here? Using a paper stencil that I made, I started to cut out the windows, tracing it and then using just an X-Acto blade to cut into the foam core. The pliability and diverse nature of the foam core makes it one of the go-to materials for crafting. Once it was all cut out, I popped it right out, and then I just fixed up the sides to make it look like the brick continued. Then, painstakingly, I added the trim. It never wanted to stay in place, and it was hard to gauge whether it was easier to use my fingers or pliers, tweezers I mean, to actually get it done. I wanted the window and all the details like the trim and the door to be very ornate, so it took some time, but I definitely liked the result. With the door, I just cut out the shape that I wanted and I started to layer up detailing. I wanted it to be like an arched roof. It didn't really turn out the way I thought it would, but I actually really like the final result. Using foam core again, I just molded it to place and started to add little trim pieces. I used a mixture of this foam core, cutting little strips out to create the indents of the trim, and then I also used some plastic little trim pieces. I think that a huge part of making a build like this is just throwing a bunch of things at the wall and seeing what sticks. And that's kind of what I've been doing here, is just adding layers until I don't like it or I do like it. And then being settled and accepting the final result at the end. We don't make plans here, we just kind of wing it. So that's what I'm doing. Using the foam core again, I actually carved out some ornate little detailing for the wall above the doorway, and I really like the way it turns out, and it gives that extra character to the build. The paint is also one of those things that I kind of just tried a bunch of things until I saw it worked, and I finally settled on a blue door after painting it green a couple times, so it's about seeing what works and what doesn't. With the trim, I wanted it to be a warmer, dirtier looking trim, so I started with a tan as if it was aged and more decrepit, and then I went over with a white. I didn't really want it to look like abandoned or anything, but I did want it to have that depth and detail. And you'll see the blue I chose. I also went through and painted just the door handle. I wanted to paint it a copper color. The concrete was actually a lot of fun. I really liked the way that the corkboard turned out, but I just ended up taking some Mod Podge and some gray paint and just smearing it on there as best I could, and then I added a bunch of layers. Basically spent my whole time layering in different colors of browns and grays. And then of course I stain it all, as well as going through with just like a light brushing, just to add that contrast and look like there's light reflecting off things. I didn't want it to look too uniform, so I did go through and with just some Mod Podge I added dirt. But that's just to give it all depth and feel like it's actually part of the street. Along with that idea of it being somewhat kind of rugged looking, I wanted to add vines. It was really giving me a sense of like an old English, almost Sherlock Holmes apartment. I was inspired by my trip through Europe when I went to Ireland, and so it was really fun to go through and try this. So this is the final result. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below, and let me know what else you think I should put inside a small box. Until next time, have a great day.